Hi, Martin here. Today I'm going to do a power steering flush on my, this is a 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokee with a 4.7 liter. So in '01, they went to a hydraulic cooling fan. Yeah, I know. A lot of you probably haven't heard of that. It is something that's probably a little bit more common now. Still, very popular, of course, would be the electric cooling fan. Now, they went to the hydro fan because they wanted a heavy duty towing capacity rating on the Jeep. And the hydro fan will do that for you. I mean, this thing, when it goes into high, it moves an extreme amount of air. But anyway, because of that, it makes this doing a normal power steering flush just a little bit more complicated because you got two return lines, one coming from each the hydro fan and your power steering gearbox. Now I'll show you what we're going to do here, how to do that, and another thing about doing this, you don't want to use the incorrect fluid. Check your owner's manual and make sure that it doesn't specify a specific fluid. Like this one, I did put regular power steering fluid in at one time because I have changed this pump out. And I mean, I knew not to put transmission fluid in it. Now, some of your older units, that is what they require. And I just assumed that that's what this takes. But after doing a little research, I find out that it does take a specific one. It does not take, let's say, the ATF4 or the ATF4 Plus. Neither one of those is recommended for this unit. I got what is recommended, or anyway, it actually lists the Chrysler part number right here on the back of the fluid that they, is called out for this one. So we're going to use the red line. I picked up 4 quarts, and 2 would probably do it on a normal power steering without the hydro fan here. So let's get started. Now we want to get rid of the fluid that's inside the reservoir first. Now I did buy some 3/8 clear vinyl hose. I'll show you why. Alright, what I got here is just an empty milk jug, or this is a water jug, and I got that 3/8 vinyl hose, a chunk of it, and it's taped to the jug here, and that way it can't accidentally come out. Now I'm going to set this down below. I'm going to bring the hose up here underneath the pump, and when I disconnect that 3/8 line, I'm going to hook this 3/8 line to it. This is just to avoid the mess. And we're still going to use this when it comes time to do the actual flush. Okay, right here is the return line coming from the power steering gearbox itself. And then below that one, there's another hose. That one goes to the hydraulic cooling fan itself. What I would do is you start off with this one right here. Be prepared when you pull this off of here, of course fluid's going to come out. So when you get this hose clamp loosened up and pull that off, grab this vinyl hose and shove that on there, and then that will drain down into the gallon jug that we have down below. Then after that is drained, put this barb fitting on this vinyl hose and to this hose here. And then when we do the flush, that will push the fluid through this line into that vinyl hose down into the container down there. Alright, with that hooked up, I'm going to turn the steering wheel left and right, the engine not running, and we should be able to pump out what's left in the steering gearbox. Alright, next we want to disconnect that return line for the cooling fan. And then I got another milk jug down below that I'm going to stick that into. Okay, here's our jug for the return line for the power steering gearbox. And here I got another one. This is going to be for the return line on the hydro fan. Okay, I got the one return line plugged with a clamp on it. There really isn't almost a need for a clamp if it fits tight. Now the larger hose, I didn't have a plug that fit on the outside, so I ended up using this smaller one. It's a vacuum line plug, and it fit in the inside of the hose nice and firmly. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and fill the reservoir. We've got the return lines plugged. Now you can overfill this at this point because we're going to be sucking this down, you know, and we're going to add some more again. I want to definitely make sure I flush this completely. I'm going to go ahead and just lightly put that cap on. I don't want it to spew up when I am going to fire up the engine. Now I'm going to turn the wheel left and right, and we're going to pump out that fluid, the dirty fluid, into those two containers. Okay, with 2 quarts run through here already, what I'm going to do is hook the return line back up for the steering gearbox. And I am not getting a lot of fluid coming out of the return line on the radiator fan for whatever reason. So I'm going to see what happens when I hook this return line back up again. It is definitely pumping fast through the return line of the steering gearbox. Now, what it does do, there is a high pressure line that does leave the fan motor, comes through here to the steering gearbox. Then it leaves with a high pressure or a low pressure line. After turning the steering wheel back and forth a few times, and that works the air out of it, and you can do that with the engine running or not running. I mean, I got the vehicle elevated just enough where the tires are, off the ground, and you may as well do it while it's not running. Then that after the air is worked out, check your level, make sure it's proper. And here's the fluid I got out of on the power gearbox side on the return line. There's quite a bit there. Now I didn't get nearly as much on the fan motor side, but it did get some. And the reason I probably didn't get a whole lot off of the return line off the fan motor is it's pushing the fluid from the power steering pump through the fan motor first, then the steering gearbox before it goes to the return line. Now, it has a very large return line on the fan motor, but the reason it wasn't pushing no fluid through it is there's a built-in pressure regulator in there. Now, had I unplugged the coolant temperature sensor, I can guarantee you that you should hear this fan go when you do that. I mean, it is moving. That probably opens up that pressure regulator and lets the fluid through that high diameter hose. Well, the whole thing took me almost 3 quarts of oil. If you got a regular power steering system, I think you could probably make it on 2 quarts with no problem. Well, if you found that helpful and informative, I appreciate the thumbs up. And if you never subscribed to me before, if you please hit that subscribe button down there and that little bell symbol right next to it. And that way you get notifications as I put up new videos. Alright, well, thanks for watching.